Conversations with Renegade. What up, guys? Aim Start Morning Show. I have a special guest, as I said earlier, Mr. Alric Lindsay. Welcome to Star 92.7.
Good morning to all your guests, John, and thanks for having me.
Very commanding voice there. Have you been? Did you? What were you laughing? This not no regular interview. Have you been practicing like the politician voice?
No, John. I haven't been practicing.
Yes. All right. Welcome. Introduce yourself and where you running for, and we get some questions.
Well, John, the reason I'm here is because I know everyone is tuned in on the way to work, and they want to hear some useful, effective information. Mm-hmm. So I am running for the district of Georgetown South, which, as most people know, starts from the avenue in South Sound, goes around Webster's Estates into Windsor Park and Fairbanks. It's a fairly diverse area, mm-hmm. made up of low income and high income areas. And the reason that's important is because different issues are applicable to different areas. Mm-hmm. So when people say, what is the most important issue to your area? The real question is, what are the issues that are relevant to different sections in your area? Because when you look at South Sound, for example, South Sounders are more concerned about overdevelopment, the environment, and traffic. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you go down to Windsor Park now, we are talking about affordable housing, talking about cost of living, unemployment. So as you see, the issues are so drastically different. And that's the challenge with being a representative is to be able to address all of the issues collectively and then try to satisfy those concerns with effective resolutions. Mm-hmm. The thing is, politicians try to make everyone happy, but it's impossible to make everyone happy by taking one measure. What's necessary in this process is great public consultation, understanding what everyone has said, giving them a chance to provide their input, and then keeping in touch with them, staying engaged, letting them know what process you've reached and resolving their concerns. And, you know, one of the national things that we're not talking about mm-hmm. is, you know, that new or soon to come online waste management facility. So the government has basically entered into what they call the design, build, own, operate facility. Now, I understand that agreements have been signed, but the facility is not yet online. What's important to understand is the waste management facility is a method that they will use to reduce the amount of garbage. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in this facility, all the garbage will be placed in a furnace and it will be burned. So the advantage of doing this is that you can reduce the amount of garbage that normally goes to the landfill by about 90%.
Right.
So you see the immediate benefit of burning the garbage. However, when you look at the dangers to the environment, years ago, we had old incinerators that we saw being used overseas in big countries. The issue with those old incinerators was they would release a lot of dangerous gases, and there wasn't a way to reduce the gases in a way that wouldn't affect people's health. Now, you might have heard of acid rain back in the 1980s.
Yes.
I know you were born in 1980, but in the 1980s...
No, I remember acid rain.
And before
I remember the warnings of that, yes.
So that was one of the byproducts of using the old incinerator without protections in place.
So do we know for sure this incinerator is of the same, or is it like of some obviously better technology, filtered smoke? I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm
glad you asked that question, John.
No, I'm going to ask the questions, Alric.
So what I've done is I believe in consultation of the group that is going to manage the facility. Instead of making my own assumptions based on research, mm-hmm. I met with some representatives from the DART group a few days ago to try to understand more about the facility. And I'm glad that they took the time to explain more about the facility, because we don't really hear much public education from the government on the facility. We don't hear much marketing about the facility. So one of the things that they mentioned, that although the facility will use a a mass burning method, which means that they're going to use fire in a single furnace. Everything gets thrown in a single furnace, and in turn, heat or steam will be produced, which in the end of the day, which is going to produce electricity. So it's a waste energy facility, but the DART group has stated that basically they are using modernized incinerators. So the incinerator they're using, the methods that they're using, will aim to reduce that issue that we experienced, 20, 30 years ago, where dangerous gases were being emitted. Now, in this system, there will be several processes to reduce the amount of gases actually released in the atmosphere. Now, I think that DART will follow international guidelines, and DART will comply with those guidelines, because obviously, if they don't comply, then it affects their reputation and also affects Cayman as a tourist destination.
Right.
And it affects politics, because whoever is responsible for making this happen is going to be responsible in the case that members of the public get injured or get affected health-wise by any possible gases that come out of this waste management facility. One of the things I think that needs to be done immediately, and I don't think it has been done, is for us to have a Clean Air Act. So although DART is being very careful and very thoughtful and making sure that it follows international guidelines, we need to also ensure that we have a Clean Air Act or some sort of clean air legislation. The purpose of that is, although there are some international standards, sometimes international standards don't take into account our specific environment. So the Clean Air Act or Clean Air Standards that we should implement would take into account measures that are over and above international standards and take into account our specific environment. John, I just wish that there was more public education on this. I wish that the government was marketing more on this, so members of the public would actually understand what the dangers are and what DART is doing to comply with international guidelines and to roll out this facility.
Where is the location of this facility?
So my understanding is going to be the same site as the landfill is now. That's my understanding, but I stand to be corrected.
Okay.
So the issue here is, for me, when you look around the world where these facilities are located, they're normally located near poor neighborhoods. And so poor people's voice is normally not heard. The only comforting thing that comes out of this is that the DART group is actually planning its own development, a residential facility, a residence near the dump. So there's no reason why they shouldn't maintain the highest standards, because if they're going to build their own facility near the dump, then obviously they're going to make sure that proper precautions are in place, proper measures are in place to reduce the amount of gases that are ended up in the air, because they're going to be impacted, their property is going to be impacted, and of course the surrounding poor communities are going to be impacted, because right around there is swamp is nearby, Webb Road, all those areas are nearby where they're already suffering with low income, struggling with cost of living, and now we have this thing which is going to be pretty much invisible. They won't know what's being released into the air. So I just think that more public education is needed. That's all I'm stressing. More education is needed from the government to inform the people of the concerns, the dangers of this possible system, and any precautions and the measures that are being put in place to reduce any possible health harms that could face the public.
All right. Thank you for putting that out there. As you said, no one's really talking about it, and you did just now, and put a lot of information, a lot of questions out there for people to go and research. Now, Mr. Lindsay, what was your motivation of wanting to run for politics or in this election?
Well, my first single didn't work out, so I decided I better go into politics.
Okay.
I think for me, it's growing up in Windsor Park and seeing politicians come in and out of neighborhoods, making promises, shaking hands, holding babies, smiling. telling people what they're going to do for them and never executing them. And I think for me, going away to university and becoming a lawyer, it was very useful because then I started to understand legislation, regulations, policy, and I also start to understand what happens when we don't have legislation or regulations or policy, or when we have the regulations but we don't implement them or we don't enforce them. Mm-hmm. And I realized that when you don't enforce things or you don't put things in place in the best interest of your country, the best interest of the people, then you effectively are putting those people at a disadvantage. And I wanted to end the culture of lack of enforcement, lack of implementation, too much conflicts of interest, lack of independence, and politicians just lining their pockets with money rather than trying to lift the people and trying to change the status of the whole country. Mm-hmm. For too long, we have a situation where it's only very small groups that get the benefit of lucrative contracts with the government. I think that needs to change. I think that I'm not trying to prevent anyone from making their money, any of the existing business from making money. What I'm saying is we need to create a platform where if contracts are being considered, those contracts are not just being given to friends of government. Some of those contracts have to be given to the small man too. There are some small businesses out there that they're competent. They've been in business for a long time. They know what they're doing. So those people also have to be given some sort of chance to bid on these projects. Every time we hear a project being awarded, it's usually a big company, a friend of someone on a board. And that's one of the things we have to change is encourage a different way to appoint members of those boards. It can't just be all friends of the politician or his family, his or her family. If you have that situation, we're going to have people who are going to always act in a way that's directed at their self-interest rather than the interest of the country.
Now, with that being said, and the changes of obviously it is happening, do you believe in term limits? You think that's something that should be implemented?
Of course. I think the term limit, in my case, I think I would recommend about 3 terms, no more than 3 terms. Why? Because politicians usually go into government saying, you can't do you can't do everything in 1 term, so I'll need a second term. Mm-hmm. And politics tends to be complicated internally as well, because people tend to be trading favors. Well, if you vote on this for me, I'll vote on that for you. I'll support you in this, or I'll support you on that. So there's a lot of horse trading that goes on internally, a lot of games that goes on internally. But I think the danger of having indefinite limits like we have now is that people will start to take politics as just a career and will start to forget about helping the people. They will start to forget about the public service. They will start to get into the role of just going through the motions, going through your neighborhood door by door, telling you what you want to hear, so they could get reelected, so they could line their pockets, so they can be near all the profitable deals. I think that needs to end, because if we don't do that, also we don't give your younger, up and coming, intelligent key minds a chance to give input into the growth and progress of the country.
Awesome. I like that. We're going to take a small break. Coming back, we have Mr. Alric Lindsay in studio. He is running for Georgetown South. You can call up 943-3700. More questions on the way.
Alarm clocks ain't needed where I'm from. You be waking up. You be waking up. You be waking up.
Renegade, Bubble, Intern JJ. It's the AM Star Morning Show. Mornings are lit. Brought to you by Flow, with the widest 4G LTE mobile coverage in the Cayman Islands.
You could be the next big winner. Another one. With our Bag of Money giveaway. If you are a Flow prepaid customer, it's easy to win $1,000 weekly. Just top up $10 or more, or activate any one of our prepaid combo plans, and you could be our big winner. We've been spreading the love all across the island. It's now your opportunity to get a bag of money from Flow. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram at Flow Cayman Islands for more info. Flow, you deserve the best.
They don't want to see us win. Ruby's Top Student is back.
Ruby's Cayman Islands is giving kids island-wide aged 7 to 12 the opportunity to pursue their passions with a financial grant from the Ruby's Top Student program.
We're giving away $15,000 worth of prizes.
One lucky prize winner will receive the grand prize of $5,000.
Go to rubiescaymanislands.com to complete and submit your application form telling us why you should be a Ruby's Top Student.
Go to rubiescaymanislands.com to learn more. Ruby's believes in fueling the future.
Rubis believes in you.
I'm swamped today and I'm starving. I have all these deadlines to meet and can't even begin to think where to get lunch from, much less what I'm cooking for dinner later. I just need a break.
Why don't you try Island Grub? They're 100% Cayman Kind owned and charge a flat delivery fee. There's no hidden charges and they deliver island-wide from West Bay to East End.
Really? That sounds like a lifesaver right now. How do I order from them?
You can check out their social media pages on Facebook and Instagram at islandgrub.ky, and orders can be made through their website at www.islandgrub.ky. They even have a promotion going on right now where you take your picture with your delivery and the driver gives you $5 cash back on the spot.
Oh, I'm calling them right away. Awesome food, convenience, and savings. Now that's what I'm talking about.
Island Grub, Cayman's #1 food and beverage guide and delivery service since 2015.
Ease into the driver's seat with affordable and flexible RBC auto financing packages. Get up to 100% financing and extended repayment terms for lower monthly payments. With this offer, you can get access to more cash with a bonus pre-approved RBC credit card for qualified buyers. What are you waiting for? Speak with an RBC auto finance specialist today. Pre-qualify in just 60 seconds. Visit rbc.com/drive-easy. Reimagine new ways to bank better.
Kingston 62 presents Pull Up! The Dancehall Reunion! Friday, March 26th at the Lion Center. The place that will wrap up. Walk with your cooler or shell the bar. Big tunes by Selector Renegade, DJ Nico, Josh the Vibes, Sound Revolution, Valence Boss, Flipper Rollers and Coalition Sound. Get your general or VIP tickets at eventpro.ky. Friday, March 26th, we're gonna Pull Up! Sponsored by Magnum, Boom, Hennessy, Picks and Execution Sound.
When I'm done grinding,
Pull Up!
I woke up this morning like
Renegade, Bubbles, Intern JJ.
I woke up this morning like.
That's right. Good morning, Cayman Islands. We have Mr. Alric Lindsay here. He's running for Georgetown South. We asked him some questions. You can ask as well. 943-3700. So, Mr. Lindsay, have you been vaccinated yet?
I haven't been vaccinated yet. I'm looking at what phase are we in right now?
I think everyone can go now.
Okay. Well, I'm still considering it. I mean, I don't know what sort of research has gone into the vaccine. I guess I'm a little cautious. So I'm still considering it, John.
Yeah. All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate the PPM on, I guess, COVID, how they handled it?
Unfortunately, John, I'm a lawyer, so I do have to consider the legalities that were involved during the lockdown as well, because some people have argued about whether there was any encroachment on their constitutional rights, whether any of these regulations were passed in compliance with the Constitution. Now, I don't know if any lawyers have actually looked into it, but I've heard that they have. So when you look at the government, you have to appreciate where the instructions are coming from. So we have a chief medical officer, and we have pretty much a website for Travel Cayman that it's pretty much identical to what the UK has. When you consider that all we had to do was take instructions from the UK, take instructions from a chief medical officer, yes, the government did a good job in taking those instructions and carrying them out. Now, you can't judge the performance of the whole government based on lockdown. So my thing is, John, when your child comes home with a report card, and that report card is not just one subject. So it shows English, math, and everything else. And sometimes it's pass or fail. So when it comes to lockdown, I would give the government a pass for lockdown for being able to follow the instructions of a chief medical officer and follow the instructions from the UK, and to have a structure similar to the UK and keeping us safe. So I give them a pass. But John, unfortunately, the other parts of the report card, which include public education, we still have concerns about public education. So I will give them a fail on that. When it comes to employment, we are in a situation where we have a perfect opportunity to retrain and retool Caymanians, have a perfect opportunity to start to apportion a part of those government funding for scholarships to vocational schools and trade schools, have a great opportunity to think about what industries we can have for Caymanians only. For example, the water sports operators that currently have wildlife interaction zone licenses. It's called a WIZ license. That is for Stingray City, for example. You have to have a WIZ license to go to Stingray City. I believe that when you're thinking about reopening, you have to think long in advance of how it's going to happen, who is going to be competing with our Caymanian water sports operators. That could be a giant coming from overseas with a lot of money and just bring a bunch of boats here, getting wildlife interaction zone licenses, and those Caymanian tourism operators will never be able to re-enter that industry because they currently have no money compared to someone who might come in here with a lot of money, see the opportunity, take that opportunity, and control the whole business. So in terms of employment, I don't see a long-term plan for ensuring that the holders of WIZ licenses are going to be protected. And for that reason and many other reasons, I would give government a fail when it comes to employment. I don't see sufficient action being taken. John, during the lockdown, I was delivering food in West Bay and in Georgetown, all over the place. And I came across a lot of seniors that didn't have health care. And some of them told me they were waiting on Cineco, they're waiting to be reassessed. And the problem is, in the period that they're waiting to be reassessed, they didn't have any health care. So I remember this lady in Windsor Park, she was telling me, I'm in so much pain. I'm in pain daily. I can't sleep. I need my medication. But in order to get the medication, I have to get Cineco. But I'm being told that I have to be reassessed. Now I've sent my documents in to be reassessed, but the documents got lost. And then the next time I resubmitted my documents, I was told that the person was on vacation.
Wow.
So in terms of health care, for that reason and other reasons, I would also give the government a fail. Now, when it comes to the environment, as I discussed earlier with the waste management facility, we aren't hearing much public conversation or public education on the waste management facility and the possible concerns with the gases that could be released in the environment. We have a lot of development going on in Cayman. We have a development plan dated 1997, which is not updated. So instead of updating the development plan, what the government is allowing is rezoning of various areas. I'm not trying to prevent development. What I'm saying is when it comes to the environment, they're rezoning areas so that certain parties can remove a lot of trees or remove a lot of mangroves. The same mangroves that protect us against the floods and the storms and protect our homes against flood damage, they're removing a vast amount of those mangroves and trees. So what I'm saying is when it comes to environment, there are a lot of things that the government could consider when they're considering this fast-paced development. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that the government has given adequate consideration to the environment. I know that we must develop. I have friends who are builders, who are contractors. I'm not trying to prevent them from making money. I'm just saying we don't have a long-term plan in place where development and environment are considered together. It's called biodiversity. I don't see it in place. So when it comes to the environment, John, again, I would give the government a fail. So I'm not trying to be hard on the government. What I'm trying to do is being objective when you look at what has been done, what concerns have been left unaddressed. It seems like, for me, the government only gets one pass on this report card, and everything else, as far as I can see it, based on the facts, being objective, the government gets a fail. So when you go to mark your X on election day on 14th of April, remember before you get there to do your own report card of the performance of the person in your electoral district. Don't give them a pass on everything just because they pass one thing.
Wow. I can't wait for your debate. When is your debate, sir?
My debate, there are two debates. I think there's a rooster, the crosstalk debate, and then there's the chamber debate. Both of them are near the end of March. I have to look it up. It's around the 26th or so.
Right.
But it's certainly near the end of March. But, my debate is going to be limited to 2 minutes. So.
Okay. All right. Now, where do you see Cayman in 10 years if you don't get in and if you were to be elected?
So, John, getting in is not about having a position. Getting in is about doing something for the country. Mm-hmm. So whether or not I'm in, I'm going to fight to do things for the country. In 10 years, if we have a plan, and this is why the government gets an overall failure and not a pass, is because when you look at a development plan, our first development plan was 1977. The next one was 1997. We have a national planning framework that was drafted. So national planning framework was drafted in 2018, 2019. The reason I'm mentioning this is because we don't have a long-term picture of how Cayman is going to look. So yes, John, while I would like us to retain our island feel in terms of architecture, the environment, nature, music, etc., although I would like to maintain those things, the government doesn't have a plan in place, a long-term plan, including an updated development plan that would address simple things like drainage, sidewalks, etc., in our neighborhoods. As you know, in almost every development in Cayman, what happens is that you build a new property, but you just build it higher than mine. And so when it rains, the rain falls off from your property onto the neighbor's property. Right. And these are very simple things. So in terms of how we're going to look architecturally, yes, I would love to see Cayman in 10 years retain that island feel, that island look. I understand development has to happen. I understand that we must progress. I understand that we must keep in touch with technology. I understand all those things. But remember, people come to Cayman for a reason, because it's an island, because we are kind to people. We invite people into our homes. Our food is great. We preserve nature to some extent. That's why people come here. People are leaving big cities, big buildings, the hustle and the bustle for a moment to relax. So I don't want to see Cayman overdeveloped so that we're just all concrete buildings and no green. When it comes to culture, I want us to maintain that culture. Listen, John, we Caymanians tend to accommodate everyone, and that's great. Caymanians are very nice. It's nice to accommodate, but you also must retain your own culture and where you come from. And whether that's a mix of culture, some kids have one parent from one place, one parent from Cayman. Now, we cannot manage to understand 100 different nationalities' culture. But what we can control is what we're teaching our children about our own culture and maintaining that going forward. So I think in terms of culture, I would love to see, the cultural fabric maintained in Cayman in the next 10 years. I don't want us to move so fast that we forget about where we come from and about retaining what's important to us, retaining what we should be treasuring. John, I think it's so important to keep those things in mind when we go forward in the next 10 years. It's not about boasting about development and we have this building and this new hospital. Just think about it. We just heard about, a group that's going to build near Camana Bay, and we heard about, new Health City Hospital going in. Now, like I say, I have no issue with development as long as we balance it with the environment. But the issue here, John, is the long-term thinking. Look at the traffic situation in West Bay. That is a lot better now. However, what is the long-term plan for traffic for West Bay? Because imagine a new hospital goes up. Imagine 100 new employees. Imagine that most of them are coming from overseas. If most of them come from overseas, are we going to get 100 new cars? How is 100 new cars going to impact the traffic on West Bay Road? So that's what I'm saying when it comes to long-term planning. And when you say what we're going to look like in 10 years, every project we do, every action we take, we have to consider what the impact is going to be. And we as Caymanians have to try to control how our country is going to look. And we can only do that if we elect representatives that take our concerns into consideration and implement things which are in the best interest of our long-term future.
I just want to say this. I heard that there's 100 new cars every week. landing in Cayman. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I heard.
That sounds about true, John, because before this, there were about 400 cars per month. So that makes sense.
Wow.
What you said makes sense.
Right. All right. What are your views? Obviously, everyone's dream, especially when I was growing up, is to be able to buy land and build a home. Now, land prices are obviously through the roof. I mean, so what are your views on the rising home building prices, purchasing of land prices? What are your views on that?
Well, John, that's directly related to discussion about development, about not having a development plan. So right now, development is pretty much fast-paced, out of control, and what's happening is people are coming in, they're driving up the prices. At the same time, you're driving up the prices, Cayman income is low, Cayman's having trouble getting jobs, Cayman's unemployed. So the future looks kind of grim for young people who want to buy property, because most likely the property is going to be outside, the property price is going to be outside their reach. And my thing is, John, education is the biggest thing for me. And I think we need to lift our people so that they can actually fend for themselves. They can be in a position where they can explore opportunity to become better and participate in the economy, and, you know, be less of a burden on the needs assessment unit and welfare. So to talk about your question directly, you know, some people are in a situation where they can pay for everything, but they just can't manage to pay the deposit. So in that case, I think that we need to consider, in some cases, or the banks need to consider, whether they can actually just waive that deposit. You know, if you waive the deposit, that might be the only thing that's preventing that person from getting a new home, from getting their chance to enjoy a new home. You know, one of the things we see in other countries are these high-rise complexes. No, I'm not a fan of high-rise complexes, because primarily, you know, we look at those places and we refer to them as the projects in the United States and other places. Now, those projects tend to be run down, so I'm not a fan of a high-rise project, but it is an option if the people want it. If the people want it, it's an option. But I'm personally not a fan because of how those types of projects tend to look. What I'm more in favor of is a real community. So, as you know, the Frank Hall homes and other types of home, sort of affordable homes, they just tend to build the homes, you know, and you just move in. But my idea of a real community is to incorporate a learning center within the community. So a trade school, something within the community for education, library, to encourage communal gardening, to encourage a lot of planting of trees, to encourage farming, to encourage neighbors to barter, share their products between neighbors. So my idea of a community is not just, you know, nice houses, nice looking houses or comfortable houses, but actually surrounding that community with things that lift the people, that make them happy when they leave home, make them happy when they return home, change their way of thinking, not a sort of a ghetto view. They live in the ghetto, not that at all, because that's that would tend to happen in cases where affordable homes are built. People tend to look at those areas as ghettos, but my view is to make those things not just beautiful, but functional and helpful, and keep people happy, lift them out of their state of mind where they feel they might be failing. Now, the other thing I can think about when you come to affordable homes, John, is my friend just moved into a container home. Now, culturally, I don't know if many Caymanians will, you know, look at affordable home and think, I can convert this container into a home. I don't know how Caymanians are going to react to that. And also, I don't know how container homes are going to fit into various neighborhoods. So I don't know if the plan is to put container homes into certain parts of Cayman, or whether they will integrate them into the normal communities. Because obviously, it may impact the prices of other homes around them.
Right.
It may impact the look of the neighborhood. So, John, I think, you know, container homes is an option. Again, if that is what people think is a good way to reduce the cost of housing and make things more affordable and give Caymans an opportunity to buy a home, then I say think about it. The last thing I'll mention before I take up all your time on your show is, over the years we should have collected a lot of concessions in relation to new developments.
Right.
One of the reasons that we should collect concessions and we should have a reserve is because there's some low-income people who would appreciate having their home purchase subsidized. Now, when you have concessions and you keep them on a reserve, the concessions could be used for various things. One of those things is emergencies. We have a national emergency. We have another Ivan, I hope not. If we have what we have right now is this pandemic, if we have an earthquake, a tsunami, putting concessions on a reserve is helpful to help us during those periods. It can also be helpful in the case of affordable housing to subsidize some of the low-income earners in order to purchase a home.
Great answers as usual. So, are we going till 9 with you, or because I'm good, but you're doing a great job.
I actually have to go by the compass and do another interview.
Okay,
but I will come back for another show.
All right, there you have it. Mr. Alric Lindsay, great answers and solutions. He's running for Georgetown South. How can people reach you for anything?
So people can reach me at WhatsApp, which is 926-1688. It's always better to WhatsApp rather than to call because I could be in a meeting, could be doing a presentation. So WhatsApp is a lot better, 926-1688. You can also email me, ALRIC, the number 4, Kman at gmail.com. That's Alric 4Kman at gmail.com.
And when's your next meeting?
My next meeting is going to be next week, Thursday. That is going to be at Smith Barcadere at 7:30 p.m. So come out and let's hear what your concerns are and how we can resolve them.
There you have it. Thank you so much for coming here, waking up early with us. AM Start Morning